Originally in English, October 2023. Positive agenda. We've talked about that so many times it gets old. We simply haven't named it that way. It's that old, from above, everything is a learning game, and nothing is wrong. From below, it looks like the good is only going around patching the holes the bad guys drill. From above, it's all a learning process. I guess the person who asked this wanted to know more specifically if there is a plan from the light forces concerning Earth. Perhaps not that expanded as all is for learning. Because we talked about Cabal's agendas, and he wanted to know what plan good forces have for Earth. I think it was meant from a bit lower level. So the level is not so high. Okay. In the end, if you can call it that way, all the souls on Earth will transcend all their limitations and all the things that keep them manifesting ugly things. That could be called the positive agenda. There is only so much the bad ones can do, because as so much evil is concentrated, it holds the seeds of its own destruction. Evil is self-destructive. There is only so far it can go before dissolving into itself. So the agenda is to transcend the limitations in the end and stop manifesting ugly things? Yes, but it's something that can only be learned through experience. What we've said before about not needing to suffer to learn is valid only when there is a certain high level of awareness in the individual. If not, it wouldn't be ready and would fall back into its old destructive habits. At lower levels, hardship and suffering are necessary to avoid stagnation. And as awareness grows, the need to suffer to learn goes diminishing, inversely proportional to the awareness of the individual. The higher the consciousness awareness of any individual is, the less it needs hardship and suffering to learn. The lower, the more it needs. But there were no limitations before all those Tiamat wars on Earth. How the Earth came to be was not planned. I don't think even good forces planned for the Earth to have become what it is. Lower-level good forces. So, saying that it's all for the experience to learn to transcend and manifest good things came as the add-on reason for all this later on. That would apply to countless millions of other inhabited planets all over the universe. We can also see each one of those as individuals, not as inert planets only, containers of life. As I have explained before, souls and consciousnesses add up to form more expanded ones, as other lesser expanded ones form and shape those I mentioned first. Okay, but let's talk about a bit more narrow agendas of the light forces. Negative forces have very specific plans and objectives. Light forces' objective cannot be as general as it's all for learning. That's from the higher view. We need a more specific target. What do the positive beings in the universe plan for Earth to be? They have sent so many starseeds in here. That's the indication that there is some sort of objective. We are a living proof of that. If it was all for learning from suffering, none of us would be here. If learning and expansion through suffering were the sole objective, then we would all just let things be as they are. Or there isn't any specific objective, just to show the souls a way out? Or perhaps there are layers upon layers of objectives here. The objective is the expanded evolution of all the souls on earth and those involved with it. But a positive agenda as such, I talked about this with my sister and we agree. There is no positive agenda as such, as that is a concept that applies to the regressive side only. Agenda means manipulation, guiding others in the desired direction, as cattle. It is also non-inclusive. An agenda means tricks and treachery, manipulation. Although we could also say that in some cases it may be justifiable. But even at the level we are talking about, there is no agenda as such. That's why it's not evident. We cannot see it as overtly as we can see the regressives' agendas and evil plans. That's why, apparently, the positive side is only patching holes and trying to neutralize what the bad ones do. But the evil side cannot go far, and it cannot climb densities without collapsing under its own weight. Because the one thing that defines evil is that it means self-destruction. Because there is a relative evil, the one we've explained that is only when we see the actions of others against our interests. Evil is relative to who is experiencing it. When it goes against someone's interests, the interest to keep on living, for example, then something is evil. For example, what is evil for someone may not be for someone else in another position or point of view. But here, I am talking about absolute evil. When it is not applied to someone else or to one or another point of view, then it would be absolute. And as it is not being compared to something else or seen from one or another relative point of view, evil disappears, except for one thing that defines itself. When there is nothing to compare it with, as it's not being evil to someone or something else, then it can only be compared to itself. Therefore, absolute evil is when it is isolated from everything else. Therefore, can only be evil towards itself. Meaning, it is the tendency to self-destruct. So evil cannot go far up in densities as it does not favor, and it cannot integrate anything, because integration is making something else as part of yourself. Therefore, it is love. Psychopaths, for example, when they get locked up in a jail or in a psychiatric hospital, tend to attack themselves. But even there, some relativity remains, because those mostly are being infested by entities. Any example of absolute evil? As seen from lower realms, it's hard to place an example of absolute negativity, because if you can see an example, then it is relative. And an example of an absolute evil cannot exist outside a theoretical concept, as it tends to destroy itself. If something is evil and has nothing or no one else to be evil towards, then the only way to be defined as evil is to be evil towards itself. Okay, you say that absolute evil cannot progress in densities and would self-destruct. However, what concerns us here are those lesser relative evils with plenty of interests to bounce themselves off of and feed on. Those do pose threat to the humans on Earth. So, in other words, not sure if the self-destruction of the absolute evil is comforting enough, because those lesser evils will remain. I am just making a point where I must define evil. When a certain level of evil is achieved, even if it is only relative evil, it self-destructs. It becomes a self-deteriorating concept. An example of this is a gunable predator in Procyon. The animal eats all its prey until it is extinct. Therefore, it's being evil towards its prey, but then the animal has nothing to eat and then dies of starvation. My point is that evil on earth cannot go past a certain level before it starts to work against itself. And that will happen, and there is nothing that can stop that from happening. For example, the agendas of super-enslaving the human population, with 2030 agendas and papayas and 3/4-minute cities, sounds terrifying. And even some people may say that individuals who were born under those circumstances would accept them simply because they have never known anything else. That sounds logical, but people don't exist only as what they have learned through their present lifetime. They are the result of countless lifetimes which accumulate in knowledge to form who each person is in the present one. Even if they consciously do not remember their past lives, those still define who they are in the present one. You cannot enslave humanity to the level the evil cabal wants and is planning to, because the people will collapse way before, taking the system with them. As my sister and I see this, most of their agendas are nothing more than fear-mongering to control the perception of the population and to cause an emotional reaction in them. Enslaving people at that level will only make the population sick and they will die. There is not much a soul can learn from being a slave at that level. Therefore, they will no longer be interested in incarnating on earth in that society. And that is perfectly fine, as there are plenty of other places to incarnate in. But that causes the cabal to ease off with those plans, or there will be no people to apply them to. And most living people would rather die than accept those restrictions, and probably that will be so. But this means that the cabal cannot succeed beyond a certain point, or everything will collapse on them. Then we have transhumanism, where they want to make people soulless for exploitation. You can have biological robots doing work for you, although technological ones are more efficient in that case. So the purpose of still having people is to exploit their emotions, as they are the creators of reality. That's why the cabal invests so much time and energy brainwashing people and guiding their perception, so those souls go on with their lives and manifest the reality the cabal desires them. But they need people with souls for that. Therefore, we see a limit to their agendas. Even the papayas had a limited effect and not as they wanted. We are coming to see that as we move along. That's perhaps why they are planning to start all that theater again, once more. But more people know that many things didn't add up the first time. So it would be a lot harder to do it all over again a second time. People learn, each one to their level, but they do learn. That's why they must move slowly and through many years, as to exploit the veil of forgetfulness, or else they will not cooperate. It is true that the vast majority of the people are helpless, brainwashed idiots that will follow whatever their evil governments tell them. But this time it is evident that the first pandemic awakened a gigantic mass of silent, wise people, which are the key for not letting the cabal continue with the progress of their evil plans. As we've explained many times before, starseeds affect a large area and people around them. All you need is one super starseed to turn the world upside down. The evil agendas and plans are very evident. They are overt and noisy, and the positive ones are silent. That's why most people cannot see the positive side. But it's there, and in the hands of all those awakened people who are silent, who know that it's useless to try to convince their ignorant family members. So they go about their business on their own, disobeying government orders and writing books, making videos with special wording in order to jump the filters, but worded in such a way their like-minded people will understand. All this is very hard for the cabal to stop. And that's why they implement things like continuous monitoring of everything the population does, using the web and AI, as an attempt to foresee and to anticipate what the silent are doing. There is no positive agenda. The positive side simply is. It does not need to prove anything. It does not need to convince anyone, as it knows that all the souls will understand at the end of the day, and at their own pace. The truth will defend itself, as the saying goes, and this applies to the positives as well. No need for agendas. Everything will turn out exactly as it should for each point of attention we call a person. It is in the hands of each little soul to understand that it's making its own reality, and that its future, its perception, and its world depends on no one else but itself. Evil cannot triumph as it holds the seeds of its own destruction. And even death is only a scary thing to manipulate the living, as nothing important ever happens to the one who dies. It's only a new beginning. And yes, suffering is real. But what isn't is the level of suffering people are made to think exists on Earth. One soul, animal, plant, or person suffering is too much. But advanced souls suffer a lot more from what they themselves are thinking and anticipating than from what really is going on. Most of what is in the media and most of what is accepted as people suffering is not real. A lot of it is, but it is hyped, so it is used to impose emotional reactions onto the population. If it's on the media, it is certainly exaggerated. An example of this are the Nazi concentration camps, where countless Jews were gassed and killed, as the story goes, but in reality, not as many people were sent there. Just a small fraction of what is said in the history books. One is too much, I know. But my point is that most of the suffering on the planet is not real. It's imaginary. People anticipate and suffer what they imagine more than what happens to them in reality.
Wow, very nice, thank you. Just a few questions about what you said earlier. Those who would die and incarnate on other planets would be mostly starseeds and awakened people who know of other options. Human souls, if they don't know of other options to be born into, those might stay here within the enslaved system, no? Or you mean those would eventually go too?
Everyone with a soul is a starseed. Humans as such are only humans because they enjoy repeating incarnations on that planet. But at a higher level, they all know that there are countless other places or situations to incarnate into. In the higher astral, in the afterlife, time as such does not exist, and everything is non-linear, or only for the direct experience at hand in a situation. Parentheses, finding someone in the astral and talking to them is linear, but only contained to that single situation. This means that each soul goes to and lives exactly what it is. Souls live who they are, as their external world is their reflection. In other words, their frequency dictates where, when, and how they incarnate. There are no mistakes and no victims. Those are only relative terms again, like evil. Good always triumphs, yes, even though from one or another relative point of view, it does not look like it does.
So, you mean on their soul level deep inside, they didn't forget that other options to incarnate exist, even if it's buried inside?
They always know. As in the higher astral, they remember everything very well, where they have been and who they were. And even if it's only on Earth where they incarnate, as time is flexible, so are reincarnations. Therefore, they will live on Earth a good experience the next time, if they are a vibrational match to that good life.
But we do take matrix ideas to the astral and to the afterlife. So, if we are programmed to believe there are no other planets to be born to, that's what we will manifest, going back to Earth.
So be it then. That's their vibe, and that is what they will live. And that's why spiritual progression is so important, and that's why it can only be a personal voyage. No one can walk the path for them. We take our ideas everywhere, as they are who we are. Lower astral or higher astral, all the same. It is only the nature of those ideas, their vibration, which dictates where they will go and what they will live, lower or higher astral. And classifying any group of ideas as matrix is again only a relative concept.
So how is it that we remember everything there in the astral while also taking matrix ideas with us? Wouldn't they dissolve then as we remember everything else there? Or do they mesh?
They mingle and mesh all the same. They take on another meaning while in the afterlife. It is each soul's problem to accept them or see past them all. That is what spiritual progression is for.
But if they remember there everything anyway, then what's the purpose in deprogramming in life? Unless it's all meshing there somehow.
You don't need to deprogram in life, as Dolores Cannon said. Your spiritual progression occurs all the time, wherever you are, alive, dead, in the higher astral, wherever.
Okay. And Yazhi, going back to the main topic. You said it only seems as if the good side was patching and going on randomly with no agenda objective. But to me, it's more than it seems so. It is so. We are patching. We are counterbalancing what they do. We are undoing what they do. We are cancelling out what they plan, etc. Isn't that all patching?
Yes, from that point of view it is. But that does not mean that the positive side will not succeed. All that patching means the bad side is on its toes to continue existing. They are not well. They are not thriving. They are in serious trouble because they need to resort to ever-increasing bad agendas to be able to milk the population for manifestation energy they consume as food. And the more they force everything in their direction, the harder and harder it will get for them to continue. The patching is collapsing them. But in reality, no one is patching anything. The truth will defend itself.
And what happens when it does?
Then there will be no earth as such for souls to go there to have a strong, short, terrifying, but extremely soul expanding lifetime. And Earth will be just another interstellar civilization with a holistic society.
Is that what you would want? Is that what Urma would want? Caristus? What do you and they truly want Earth to become?
It's not about what we want. It is about what humans want for themselves. We are just guides.
The answer must be, though, what you just said, the interstellar civilization with a holistic society. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said that this is what would happen if the good side won.
Yes, but that is my interpretation of a good outcome. And it is not what the human population, expressed through its collective unconscious, truly wants.
You are just guides, but guides towards the holistic interstellar civilization? Or towards what?
We are not guiding with any purpose other than expanding human minds so they can make wiser decisions. It's not up to us. Our only true definable purpose is to ease suffering. Although, in the moment we guide, we become enmeshed. And we become part of the matrix as more noise in the media that confuses the human mind. There are no extraterrestrials who are noisier than us, not in at least last 100 years. We are so noisy that we are even classified as science fiction. Being so noisy, we simply cannot be real, many say. I see souls thriving. I see them transcend all bad things. Love and integration are stronger. The higher astral on earth is strong. Many powerful, loving people there, who together make a much stronger force than the matrix.